Well, it's 11:30 a.m. on the Friday edition of Newsroom here on GHOne television. Good morning. Welcome to the bulletin. I am Kodjo Mensah, but here's what to expect in the next 60 minutes. Wager Divisional Police Command commences investigations into the tragic death of a 13-year-old girl who was allegedly subjected to severe physical abuse by her father for taking food belonging to her younger sibling. Also, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's campaign team raises concerns over the decision by the Presidential Elections Committee of the New Patriotic Party to ban proxy voting in the party's upcoming presidential primaries. Also ahead, Ghana Federation of Traditional Medicine Practitioners Association calls for an immediate end to galamsey over toxic threats to traditional medicinal plants. Private legal practitioner calls for review of the current system that makes the Ghana School of Law the sole institution responsible for training prospective lawyers. And on the international front, an unknown number of schools have been abducted by armed men from a Catholic school in central Nigeria, marking the second school kidnapping in less than a week. Well, stay with me for details of these stories and more in the bulletin. Well, grateful for your company this morning. I am Kodjo Mensah. The details: and the Wager Divisional Police Command has commenced investigations into the tragic death of a 13-year-old girl, Celestine Adonting, who was allegedly subjected to severe physical abuse by her father, Isaac Adonting, at Kukrobite. Now, the suspect, a 54-year-old Mason, has been arrested and detained to assist with investigations. In a statement signed by the head of public affairs for Greater Accra Police Command, Superintendent Juliana Obing, the police indicated that preliminary investigations show that the suspect physically assaulted the victim with a cane, a metal pipe, and other objects after accusing her of taking food belonging to her younger sibling. Despite the victim sustaining multiple injuries, the suspect failed to seek medical care and kept her confined in a room. The police, acting on a complaint, proceeded to the residence where the victim was found unconscious. Now, she was rushed to the police hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. The body has since been deposited at the police hospital morgue for preservation and autopsy. Exhibits retrieved from the scene include a cutlass and a metal pipe allegedly used in the assault. Well, a very worrying development there, and we'll keep our eyes on this particular story and give you updates in subsequent bulletins. But talking away from that, the head of public relations at the Ghana Education Service, Daniel Fenyi, says guidance and counseling support is being provided to students of the Islamic Senior High School in Kumasi. It follows an incident in which the school's acting boys prefect reportedly fell from the top floor of the administration block. Now, speaking on News Tonight, Daniel Fenyi said the service is also exploring additional measures to safeguard the psychological well-being of the entire student's body.
As a council coordinator, we'll be meeting the student body and, of course, the teaching body as well to take them through some psychological processes, emotional process, to at least stabilize their emotions on campus. And then from there, at the moment, we have not. At the moment, we are looking at offering guidance and counseling services to stabilize emotions on campus. But when we realize that the situations have escalated, and for that matter, the learners may have to change the environment for some time before they will stabilize, why not? We would consider that. But at the moment, we are looking at more or less a first aid intervention, that is the counseling services, to see how we are able to stabilize our learners emotionally, psychologically, mentally.
Right.
And then from there, we can take.
Well, let's do some other stories now. The Supreme Court has unanimously dismissed an application filed by Future Global Resources Limited and Blue Gold Bogoso Limited challenging Heath Goldfields Limited over its acquisition of the Bogoso Prestea mine. Now, the court held that the application lacked merit and threw it out. Now, this marks the sixth consecutive legal defeat for Blue Gold and FGR since September 2024. Now, the ruling reinforces Heath Goldfields' legal position in the acquisition of the mine. Now, the company says it remains committed to responsible mining, investing in host communities, and engaging stakeholders with transparency and integrity, as captured on the screen, as you can see in that statement from Heath Goldfields. How the story has panned out in the last couple of months. My colleague Mutala Inusa, who is our court correspondent, is joining me with further details on this development. So Mutala, give us a little background to how we arrived at the Supreme Court basically dismissing the application filed by the two companies.
Well, Joshua Kodjo, Mensah, for somebody to come to court with an application for certiorari, it means a certain action has taken place, and that action, they are not happy with that, and they want the court to intervene. And this action that we are talking about is the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry assigning the mineral rights to Heath Goldfields. Initially, these applicants were of the view that the manner in which their rights was terminated isn't lawful. So they went to the High Court seeking for that particular order from the ministry to be quashed. On top of that, they wanted an injunction on that. The High Court said, like, there's no basis for that particular request. It was dismissed and affirmed the Natural Resources Ministry's right to Heath Goldfields. Now, they disagreed with that, went to the Supreme Court with a certiorari application to have the orders quashed. That did not suffice. Initially, when they filed, the lawyers hesitated, and it led to the court striking it out for want of prosecution. Later on, they refiled, had it relisted, and then managed to have the application called. That was what happened on Tuesday, 18th of November, when the matter was called. And the lawyer, having made their submission, the Apex Court panel of 5, presided over by Justice Amadou Tanko, was of the considered view that there is no merit in that particular request for certiorari. There's no legal basis for that, and the court will not even allow the interested parties here to respond to that particular action. Consequently, it was dismissed. But the court was magnanimous enough to say that no order as to cost will be awarded against the applicant in that matter. So if you're asking of the background, that is where it started in 2024 September, when the minister assigned the mineral right to Heath Goldfields Limited. And that is the reason the applicant went to the High Court. They didn't succeed, proceeded to the Supreme Court, and yet again, they suffered a defeat from the action that they have filed.
Quite interesting. So what does this mean for Heath Goldfields Limited then, going forward?
So once the application that we are talking about has to do with a certiorari application, and all that it matters is that what they are seeking, the court is saying that there's no legal basis. The interested party, Heath Goldfields, and the ministry will have to go ahead to do whatever they have to do in relation to the contract that have been signed, the rights that have been awarded, until any further action is taken to restrain the parties. Whatever the minister has put on the table is what works. So for the applicant in relation to this matter, they have nothing much to say except to respect whatever the court has said.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Murtala Inusa, our legal affairs correspondent, for giving us a perspective on this particular decision taken by the Supreme Court of Ghana in favor of Heath Goldfields Limited regarding the Bogoso Prestea mine. But away from that, a private legal practitioner and law lecturer, Frederick Kwame Asamoah, is calling for a review of the current system that makes the Ghana School of Law the sole institution responsible for training prospective lawyers. His call follows renewed national debate on reforms in legal education. Now, speaking to me earlier on GA Today, Mr. Asamoah, who is also a bishop with the Victory Bible Church International, stressed the need to expand access to the professional law course, saying the demand far outweighs the available training space.
I think that we must accept that the economy has opened up. I mean, law school as a school, opened my Kwame Nkrumah many years ago. The number of students at my time, I think the maximum was about, we're coming just from Legon, and Legon 60. So that's about 80 students. Compared to now, we can say that 80 lawyers a year can fulfill the nation's requirement.
True.
And so there must be more. I think that the rush is massive and unnecessary. I think that many people think that there's something in so much, but that's another discussion altogether. But the economy has opened up. So let us open it up. This way of going to a particular institution like Makola, we are all going there, can't work. We must open it up, said that the same way we're taught at Legon, now Tech, Cape Coast, and you became a lawyer, the same way you can be taught the principles of the court there. And then we all write a common exams and pass. I think it's better. I expect that we should go the England way, whereby like external exams, all right? Because what are we taught at the law school? Law school is about teaching you court practice, issues that you do with court. In fact, some people even don't need to go to law school. So we must even try and split that legal education. Some people want to be solicitors. And personally, if you ask me, I don't enjoy court practice, personally. But our system is such that for you to be called a lawyer, you must finish the faculty, the degree, and automatically go to law school. But maybe some people will not need the law school. I tell you for a fact, many people who are going to the law school now, particularly those who are already in established career, they don't need the law school and they won't go to court. But the system is said that until you go to the law school, you cannot be called a lawyer. So that's why everybody is struggling. There are so many people that, like an accountant, like a banker, like a pastor, a bishop, he goes through legal education. First 3 years is enough for him to supplement what he's doing. But now he is compelled to go to law school. You go to the law school, all right, rush, join the queue, but when he finishes, you know where they're going one day.
Well, let's shift focus to some politics. And campaign spokesperson for Kennedy Ohineja-Pong, Kwesi Kwarteng, says the New Patriotic Party's decision to ban proxy voting in the upcoming presidential primaries is in the right direction. Speaking on Start Today, he emphasized that electing the flag bearer is a critical democratic process and proxy voting could compromise the transparency the party seeks to uphold.
The presidential election is one of the most important internal electoral process of our party, and as such, it requires the highest standards of transparency. And of course, for that matter, it must be insulated from all potential vulnerabilities. If we look at the proxy voting, it is undisputed that it consolidates decision-making power in the hands of intermediaries, making it accessible to manipulation and influence and unverifiable claims concerning the instructions of the true delegate. And so at a crucial time like this, looking at the mood of the party and the fact that we want to come together, believing and of course all supporting the candidate that the electors elect, it is imperative and important that for now we suspend the whole idea of the proxy voting. I mean, I must also quick to add that Team Ken is not against proxy in principle. What we are against is the potential and the possibility for the proxy process to be abused in country.
Well, the deputy spokesperson for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's campaign team, Dr. GHOne, has raised concerns over the decision by the Presidential Elections Committee of the NPP to ban proxy voting in the party's upcoming presidential primaries. Speaking on Star today, she said the ban could potentially disenfranchise delegates who may not be present on election day due to genuine reasons. Now, she pointed out that proxy voting has been part of the party's electoral process for years without any significant issues. Now, despite the reservations from the campaign team, she stated that the Bawumia team remains committed to respecting the rules and regulations set by the party.
Proxy voting is something that has been done over the time. Even in 2023, it was used. So it has very clear-cut rules and regulations. So I don't see how that has become another point of litigation for us going into this election. If you listen clearly to the chairman of the Presidential Election Committee, you could see that this decision was some sort of compromise position after understandably receiving a lot of complaints from some of the other aspirants on this matter, which personally to me, I don't understand, because even if you look at the figures, the numbers that we usually encounter during our elections for proxy, I really do not see how that should be any cause of complaint or litigation. But we in the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia campaign, is our position that we would abide by whatever guidelines that the Presidential Election Committee comes up with, but it is very unfair to disenfranchise people.
Right, so that's the perspective from both camps. In fact, the leading camps when it comes to the NPP's presidential election slated for the 31st of this January next year. But let's speak to political analyst Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ochre. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. So from your perspectives, having monitored elections over the years, how crucial is the issue of proxy voting, especially when it comes to internal party politics like what we're witnessing within the NPP?
Well, Joshua, let me say good morning to you and to your viewers as well. The point is that proxy voting in elections, has been somewhat a means by which others use to win. And occasionally, even when you conduct internal elections like UTAG and those things, these things are prone to some kind of abuse. I'm of the view that whichever way you look at it, is going to create some kind of problem for the party. The first thing is that I believe the committee chair and the committee wouldn't want a situation where at the end of the results it will become some sort of dispute. And so instead of creating that particular issue or problem, they want to go for the lesser of the two evils, and that is to prevent proxy voting. And that means that it is going to affect all candidates. And so proxy voting, yes, we do not know, most often than not, I stand to be corrected, but at the national level, for example, those who are on missions abroad, like our soldiers, the police, they are easily identified and they are allowed to vote. Those who are on missions like the embassies and so on and so forth, they are equally allowed to vote. But it is not every Ghanaian out there in the diaspora that gets the opportunity to vote, though we've spoken about ROPAL and all those things. And so I do not know whether these people are on their own mission abroad and they will want to vote. Yes, it's as if you are denying them of that particular franchise. It is not proper. But if that could potentially be a source of dispute in the future, then I think that it is prudent on the part of the party to say that they are not going to allow that thing to take place. It affects everybody. It could affect a particular candidate more than the others, because potentially if the person who is likely to win will likely have more proxy votes out there than those who do not have such opportunity. So,
right.
Plus or minus, yeah.
And it's become a bone of contention now, because the Bawumia camp feels that, well, this has always been a part of our electoral process, and we've always used it. We've not had too many problems using this particular proxy voting process. Whereas the Kennedy Japan camp feels, well, it's okay, let's go ahead with it. Do you see this playing to the disadvantage of any candidate? Because you say that it affects all candidates.
Yes, it affects all candidates, but I mean, if you look at it potentially or propensity-wise, I think that the one who is likely to win the elections, for example, will have more proxies than the others. And so in as much as it disadvantages everybody else, it disadvantages the very person who has the potential to win. Because that is how I see it. It is more likely that, if it is Dr. Bawumia who is likely to win, then you will definitely have more proxies than Kennedy Japan, than the two other candidates. If Kennedy Japan is likely to win, then he's also going to suffer more proxy votes, than Dr. Bawumia. But as they are starting on a clean slate, whichever way you look at it, somebody will throw some kind of potsherd, at this particular decision of the committee. But I think that the decision they have taken is a bit more prudent and appropriate in the sense that, look, they are not ready to embroil themselves in any kind of litigation or court issues. And that's the more reason why they are taking this particular decision. If you want to vote, come. But it is equally an Herculean task on the part of these electorate or delegates who are being denied that particular franchise. I hope it does not lead to a situation where these people will want to take the matter in the court of law. And that in itself may derail the process.
Right.
Whichever way you look at it, the MPP as it stands now need more people than alienating. So if they are not careful, and this decision is going to alienate some of these people out there, that in itself will not augur well for the unity of the party and their status and stance within the party as well.
There's a school of thought that suggests that, well, if you truly love the NPP and want to be a part of the process in determining who gets to lead the party in the 2028 elections, now till January 31 should be enough time for you to leave wherever you are in the world to make time for the process. Do you agree?
I agree, Joshua, but it is a very cynical way of looking at the issue.
Right.
It is not easy to spend $3,000, come down, it is in and out, for example, come down just to cast one ballot. If the candidates, so to speak, like what's the name? The Dr. Brian, Kennedy Japan, if they so wish and they need the numbers, they can bring them down. They can ask them to come, and they can afford. They can do that. Right. But the point is that how many of these can you afford, and how would that tilt the elections in your favor? So if you look at the pros and the cons in terms of finance, it is not a prudent decision on any of the candidates to take that particular decision. And I don't see how somebody will want to come down in the name of $3,000 just to come and cast a ballot. Well, if you have enough, you can equally do that and then brag about it.
Right. Doc, thank you so much for engaging with us. That's Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ocho. He's a political analyst helping us appreciate the various perspectives to the NPP's ban on proxy voting for the January 31 presidential primaries of the party. But away from that, let's talk about illegal mining, because even though we are seeing the ravages of illegal mining in various aspects, the Ghana Federation of Traditional Medicine Practitioners Association has joined calls for government to immediately end galamsey activities in the country, as plants used for traditional medicine are also being affected by toxins from illegal mining. Now, the association also called on members to have their own farms far from the galamsey sites to avoid endangering lives with toxins. President of the association, Professor Samuel Duncan, revealed this at the 26th Traditional Medicine Week celebration, which was on the theme strengthening the evidence base for traditional medicine.
That are used by the galamsey operators largely affects all the areas that they operate. So it affects every plant that goes there. So when you use those plants to manufacture any medicine, it means that you are bringing in toxins, especially hard metals, and that is not safe for human consumption. So there is a need for practitioners to have their own farms far from the galamsey sites, so that we can have quality materials for herbal medicine production. Yes. Before you can produce a quality product, it has to undergo research, vigorous research. And research and development needs a lot of funds. And this is where we are calling on the government to come and support the industry in that particular area.
Well, so let's get on the phone lines now and engage Professor Samuel Ato Duncan on this particular development. Prof, thank you so much for joining us. So you have mentioned that this is where we are also finding traditional medicine, the producers. This is one of the concerns you have due to illegal mining. But how widespread is this worrying phenomenon?
Okay, good morning to you and your listeners and viewers. Yes, the Galamsey are destroying a lot of medicinal plants. Of one, the chemicals that are used by Galamseyers, those who engage in Galamsey, actually destroy the land and the water bodies that the plants get their resources from. Because the water dissolve the mineral salt from the soil, and the roots fill them up into the soil. And if they contain hard chemicals, like hard metals, then goes a long way to affect the medicinal plants, the leaves, the buds, and whatever we use for medicine. So it endangers traditional medicine in the country. So if really we want to protect traditional medicine, promote traditional medicine, then there's a need for us to look at this very, very carefully. The Galamsey is a threat to traditional medicine. And traditional medicine is a green gold for Ghana.
Right. And so, Prof, how do we go about basically dealing with this challenge? Because as it stands now, government is fighting illegal mining, but we know what is happening with that fight. It's not as successful as we would have all wished because of the amounts involved for those who are engaged in this illegal practice. But then from the traditional medicine perspective, what can we do to basically make sure that the medicines we're producing or the raw materials used for medicines are not contaminated by these toxins released into the soil by these illegal miners?
Yes, so what we are advocating is government should help practitioners to cultivate medicinal plants far away from the Galamsey site. Because without controlled something that can ensure that we have very safe materials for production, that's also not going to help. And this goes a long way to affect the practitioners since they don't have money to cultivate medicinal plants. That is why they go into the wild to look for the materials. And you don't take care. Whether we like it or not, they will take it, they will pick it from that same area and they'll produce it. And about 70% of the population rely on the traditional medicine. So definitely people go there to take. And that is where the problem is. So if we have medicinal plant farms, huge acres of medicinal plant farms, then definitely we will rely on those sources of material for production of medicinal plants. But the government is doing well in the area of fighting this particular this Galamsey issue. But I think that there's a need for the government to do more. I know the government strategy now to address this, but all of us must support the government, seriously. All of us, traditional practitioners, traditional authorities, everybody must support the government to fight Galamsey. Seriously, it's a threat to our future. It is not only medicinal plants. All plants are being endangered by this particular practice. Because all the water bodies, we pollute the water bodies, we contaminate them. And it's a very serious thing. Once you contaminate them, you contaminate the soil. But the food we eat itself is being contaminated. The yams we eat, the cocoyams we eat, the plantain, whatever we take is being affected.
Right, but Prof, that has been disputed by the Agric Minister. He says that cannot be the case, that the food we are eating is being contaminated by illegal mining activities.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And food we eat, they also plants. They all come from plants. It's a very serious thing that we must look at, not only traditional medicine. Traditional medicine itself is food, but they all come from plants. So we are looking at how we have to protect the plants, our forests, the agro industry.
Yes.
There's the need to do more. And when we should do, we have to do a controlled cultivation. That is where we can use the spring water for irrigation, so that we don't tap into the river bodies that have already been contaminated by these galamsey practices.
Right.
But they all contain toxins and hard metals. And when we come to the traditional medicine industry, we also want government to support us to buy machines that will be able to detect hard metals in plants or the material that before we take them to manufacture our medicines. It's a very serious thing that we should look at this point.
Right. Right. So it cannot be the case that the food we are eating or the plants we are seeing and the food stuff coming from there cannot be affected by galamsey. Galamsey is actually affecting them.
Yes. Galamsey is actually affecting them.
Okay. And so...
Galamsey is actually affecting them. And, my brother, let me tell you one thing.
Right.
We can live without gold, but we can't live without food. We can live without gold, but we cannot live without food. We cannot live without water. So this is how we have to look at it. Gold can bring you money today, but so it has a serious future consequences. Because when you get the money and you don't have food to eat, you definitely die. When you have the money and you don't have good water to drink, definitely it's also going to affect you. So our health is more important than the gold that we are digging, the gold that we are mining. Seriously, let's just look at it from this angle. Without gold, we can live, but without food, we cannot live.
Absolutely.
Without medicines, we cannot live. Without water, we cannot live.
Absolutely. Prof, thank you so much for engaging with us. We appreciate your time this afternoon. But let's move on to some other stories. And the Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources, Kenneth Gilbert Ejay, has stated that he is impressed about the steady progress of work so far at the Blekusu Phase 2 Sea Defense Project site in the Ketu South Municipality of the Volta region. Speaking to journalists after a working tour of the project, Mr. Ejay pledged his support to ensure the full execution of the project being undertaken.
The Phase 2 of the Blekusu Sea Defense Project started in July 2025 following the continuous occurrence of the perennial issue of high sea waves which have destroyed the properties and livelihoods of hundreds of coastal residents at Agaveji, Amutinu, Salakope, Adina and Blekusu. 4 months ago in July, the President John Dramani Mahama cut short for the project, which is expected to be completed in July 2028. It aims to protect an 8-kilometer stretch of the coastline from severe tidal waves erosion. The work involves the construction of 37 groins, dune restoration, and the reinforcement of embankments to safeguard the affected coastal communities. The contractors said 6 groins have so far been constructed. The Works and Housing Minister, Kenneth Gilbert Ejay, told the media after the tour that he is impressed with the work being done by the Amandi contractors.
I must say that I am impressed about what is going on here because I've been receiving payment certificates in the office. And I've been asking myself, is the work really going on like the way these payment certificates keep coming? and I decided that today I'll pay a visit to ensure that whatever payment certificate that comes to my office to be signed, the actual work has been done. And truly, I've come to see that the work is really going on.
The regional minister, GHOne, appeals to the contractors to equally begin providing some of the auxiliary facilities associated with the project.
I want to also appeal to the contractors. Yes, we appreciate the work they are doing. There are some auxiliary facilities that comes with this whole project. They can start those ones at the same time so that the community will benefit from those auxiliary facilities.
The project manager, GHOne, also spoke with the media.
The result, you can see the sand, you can see also the first 1 kilometer is stable. And I think this is what is the important thing, that to relieve for the people here that was suffer, that now they can start to see the result.
Benjamin Makafiatipo, Blekusu.
While you're still watching Newsroom here on GH1 television, I am Joshua Kodjo Mensah. We'll take a breather here and return with more. Well, thank you for staying with us. Let's do some more stories. And Ghana's growing plastic waste problem is choking our drains, polluting our seas, and making flooding worse every rainy season. But one man is contributing to solving the problem. Environmental activist Makafuyi Awuku is turning discarded sachet water plastics into durable school chairs and tables, giving hope to students, especially in rural communities who often have no furniture to sit on. His innovation tackles two challenges at once: Ghana's mounting plastic crisis and the persistent shortage of classroom furniture. Zuleiha Nuhu has more in this report.
The rhythmic hum of machines fills a modest workshop here in Accra. Piles of used sachet water plastics, once an eyesore littering streets and drains, now sit neatly sorted, waiting to be recycled. What many consider waste, Makafuyi sees as raw material for change. From this small space, he and his team are turning discarded plastics into classroom chairs and tables. It's a simple idea with powerful impact, tackling Ghana's mounting plastic pollution while bringing dignity and comfort to classrooms that have long gone without furniture.
We already have about 400 desks in schools, more than 10 schools. We've set up a computer lab for a school in Afienya also, and we've built a bus shelter or a cooling shed. One of it has been installed at Accra Academy already. So there's already so much impact, and I've already trained 15,000 young people in 3 African countries over the period.
Makafuyi's work is already making a real difference, and he says this is just the beginning.
The goal is to, 1, fix the 2 million desk deficit issues in the country, try fixing similar problems in other African countries that have similar challenges and similar situation. Then also, we have a roofing tile product also from the pure water sachet, being able to make larger, longer panels of that to be able to revolutionize the construction industry.
The acting director of human settlements at the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Hope Smith Lomote, acknowledges the plastic problem. He says there are strategies and funding streams to support innovators like Makafuyi who want to scale up.
If you look at the plastic management policy 2020, there are a lot of strategies inside. One of them is what Makafuyi is doing. And already government of Ghana, through GEF, that's Global Environment Fund, has given grant to about 12 companies who are mopping up plastic waste from the system.
The founding director of the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, Professor Christopher Gordons, explains that plastic can take up to 1,000 years to decompose. He warns that the fish consumed from our waters often contain traces of microplastics, which can disrupt human hormones and eventually find their way into our bloodstream.
We've done studies looking at fish along the coast, keta schoolboys, anchovies, sardines, and can find up to 110 individual microplastics. The other side on our health directly is that all plastics contain additives. As they leach out of the plastic itself, i.e. they dissolve in the surroundings, which can be soil, it can be water, they release what are known as endocrine byproducts, which mimic the hormones we have in our body. So this can cause issues with fertility, can lead to long-term chronic disease.
He says this is why Makafuyi's intervention is so critical. It does not only give discarded plastic a second life, but also helps prevent these harmful materials from entering the environment in the first place.
We have to replicate this in every district. It's a very good initiative. He's doing well, but it has to be, as you said, at scale.
By transforming discarded plastics into classroom chairs and tables, Makafuyi is not only improving the lives of students across the country, but also tackling a crisis that affects our environment, our health, and the future of Ghana's communities. Reporting for GHOne News, Zuleiha Nuhu.
All right, so let's do some business stories now.
The Business Brief is brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
Well, in business this afternoon, the Center for Policy Scrutiny is cautioning the Bank of Ghana over what it says are interventions that have raised concerns that the current stability of the cedi may be artificial. Now, the central bank has in recent times pushed back on those claims, insisting it only acts as an intermediary in the market. But speaking at a 2026 budget review session here in Accra, Executive Director of the Center, Dr. Eduewusu Sarkodie, stressed that the Bank of Ghana is first and foremost a regulator and should leave the use of the intermediary term.
Recent times, the Bank of Ghana has been criticized for its heavy intervention, for which many pundits believe that the exchange rate is artificial. So the BOJ responded and said that they are not doing intervention, they are doing intermediation. But CPS believes that both in practice and theory, financial intermediation is done by financial intermediaries. The central bank is not a financial intermediary, it is a regulator. So it should be done by, commercial banks and other secondary and primary dealers. But the point is that gold proceeds, cocoa proceeds, and other proceeds from our exports directly go to the central bank. For example, Cocoa Board would purchase cocoa, sell it, and all the dollars will not be kept with the commercial banks. They will be kept with the central bank. So it is within this remit that we agree for any possible intervention from the central bank, because the central bank is more or less has a full custody of the proceeds from our exports. But the bone of contention is not about the action, it's about the term, the concept that you are referring to. CPS will have no problem if the central bank intervenes and they have the capacity to intervene.
Well, so the centre is also urging government to increase resources for the Ghana Revenue Authority, insisting that the success of the 2026 budget will largely depend on how much revenue the state is able to mobilize. Speaking at the CPS 2026 budget review, senior lecturer at the University of Ghana's Economic Department, Dr. Prince Ajay, stressed that fiscal discipline will be crucial and warned that overspending must be avoided.
That to make the 2026 targets actionable, government should increase resources to GHOne, who is the chief tax collector, to ensure that they get the needed support to plug in all the loopholes and all the leakages and raking more money. Don't forget that the ambitious capex of 141% is largely dependent on how much revenue comes in. We also advocate that there should be a scaling up of spending in the 2026 budget, but this should not be at the expense of efficiency. Normally, we notice that when governments have these ambitious budgets, in order to impress, they overspend and they become reckless. We are advocating that government should be careful and ensure discipline in this regard.
Well, still in more business stories, President of the Chartered Institute of Marketing Ghana, Michael Abiu, is urging industry leaders to recognize and appreciate the critical role sales professionals play in driving institutional growth. Now, according to him, sales professionals are the engines behind every successful business and will be central to delivering government's proposed 24-hour economy. He stressed that no business can operate beyond daylight without the revenue, demand and customer traction that sales teams generate. There's more in this report.
The 2026 National Sales Leaders Conference and Awards, organized by MGA Consulting Ghana, has officially been launched under the theme Redefining Sales Excellence for Today's Dynamic Market. Speaking at the press briefing, CIMG President and CEO of MGA, Michael Abiu, said salespeople will be pivotal to the government's growth agenda.
To be able to build this 24-hour economy, in order to industrialize Ghana and get Ghana to work 24 hours, then you need the salespeople to be at the center of it, driving the market demand, driving the customers into your businesses and into your and buying your products within those extended hours.
The National Treasurer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Kabute Caesar, added that sales forces are the engine of every business.
Creating this platform for awards, for recognition, widening the scope of the role of a salesperson. And I believe that this platform is going to create that consciousness that the salespersons or the sales force in our organization need to be given a second look in the way they are managed, in the way they are resourced, and the way they are motivated to meet their targets.
The 2026 National Sales Leaders Conference and Awards is scheduled for June 17 and June 18, where individuals, teams and organizations championing world-class sales excellence in Ghana will be celebrated.
Well, that's it for business this afternoon. Up next is the sports.
The Business Brief was brought to you by CompuGhana. Passion for...
Many thanks for joining me here on Sports Brief. I am Monica Bukari. Now, Sports and Recreation Minister Kofi Idi Adams is calling for stronger efforts to retain top talents in Ghana's local football league. According to him, keeping skillful players in the country for longer will not only raise the standard of local competitions, but also improve the overall growth of Ghanaian football.
Well, my position is that good and great players should not be left out anywhere they find themselves, whether they are local or foreign. Indeed, we are not going for this World Cup just to participate and come on. That's why we must assemble our best. It should not be like we should pick people from local because they are local. If they are the best, let's pick them. We must be intentional about growing our local football and be intentional about retaining the local talents. But if all we do is that when somebody is good, the next moment is looking for a club that will buy the person, then we cannot have the local players. So we need to be very intentional about retaining good and skillful and talented players also here. Then you can pick them. But if the plan always is a club picks a player, the player is good, he is skillful, the next moment is that they are sharing his videos looking for any club to be interested in him, then how are we going to pick the local players? When every good one, we are shipping them and planing them away from our soils. So part of my strategy is to see whether it is the remuneration that is low or whatever is low, to begin to work at it. And that is why we have started with strong government intervention in supporting the Premiership. We will extend this to cover many other development sports, and we will work to improve it, especially when the sports fund is finally launched, and then it start yielding something, we start growing it. We will use to support all sports, not only football though, but it's not so expensive supporting the other sports as compared to football. Football is really, really expensive, and so it takes a lot, and it brings a lot of pressure on every minister and every sports minister, and then of course every management of that federation.
Away from that, the Nigeria Customs men's volleyball team has bowed out of the ongoing SAC Super Volleyball 2025 tournament at the Baltimore Sports Complex in Accra, following a straight set defeat to Ghana Air Force team, coming off a painful loss to the Ghana Police team in their final match, group match. Nigeria Customs once again fell to another disciplined Ghanaian service side. The Air Force squad sealed the victory in 3 tightly contested sets. Despite the exits, the Nigerians showed quality throughout the tournament. They earned 6 points in the group stage after impressive wins against Benin All-Stars and Ghana Navy, eventually finishing second in their group. Meanwhile, the Ghana Air Force team marches confidently into the semi-finals as they continue to make waves at their ongoing championship in Baltimore. Now to some women's football, and the Malta Guinness Women's Premier League this season has seen a total of 30 matches played so far, with 15 away wins, 9 away wins and 6 draws. The league has also recorded 62 goals so far, with 37 scored by home teams and 25 by away sides, including 27 first half goals and 35 in the second half. Now, in terms of discipline, 69 yellow cards and 3 cards have also been issued. The league has also, however, awarded 4 penalties, all of which have been successfully converted. Now, currently, after match day 3, Ampem Darkwan ladies sit atop the league table with 7 points, followed by Savannah and Prisons ladies, all having 7 points in the Northern Zone. With the Northern Zone, Army ladies have given a gap with 9 points, 2 points clear of Jonina ladies, who has 7 points, followed by Police ladies with 6 points. League games will, however, resume next weekend as they make way for the Women's FA Cup this weekend. And that does it for sports, but do stay tuned on GHOne TV as we bring you the semi-finals of the SAC Super Volleyball coverage from Baltimore. My name is Monica Bukari. Back to you, Joshua Kodjo Mensah.
Many thanks, Monica, for bringing us the latest world of sports. Let's check out what is happening elsewhere. Now, an unknown number of pupils have been abducted by armed men from a Catholic school in central Nigeria, marking the second school kidnapping in less than a week. Now, the latest attack targeted St. Mary's School in Niger State, where authorities had already ordered the temporary closure of all boarding schools due to rising security threats. Details remain unclear, but residents fear that close to 100 students and staff may have been taken away during the early morning raid. Nigeria has faced a renewed wave of attacks by armed groups in recent days, including the kidnapping on Monday of 25 schoolgirls from a boarding school in nearby Kebbi State. Police said armed men, locally known as bandits, stormed St. Mary's School on Friday at about 2 o'clock local time and abducted an unconfirmed number of students from their hostel. Fear and uncertainty have gripped the area as families wait for news. Now, the surge in attacks has underscored the deepening insecurity in the West African nation and prompted President Bola Tinubu to postpone planned foreign trips. Well, that's it in this package for the news. There's more news for you at starfm.com.gh. I'm Joshua Kodjo Mensah. Good afternoon.